For the audience, you are sitting in the virtual webinar room created by Florida's Technological Research and Development Authority for a webinar series. That webinar series includes 6 topics. The first topic was addressed a little more than a month ago in April. The topic tackled understanding the technology development cycle. Today you're sitting in on the second in this series, and this topic today is translating your technology into business terms and company capability into business terms. In July we'll have a webinar entitled Managing a Technology and Product Pipeline, and you can from these topics realize that we're building one webinar on top of another. There's reinforcement, but there's also new information in each of these sequential webinars. After these first 3 webinars, we'll be able to, as a group, start to tackle the 4th webinar topic, which is securing your intellectual property, followed by a webinar entitled The Anatomy of Deal Structuring, which is something that so many folks want to hear. These prior webinars will provide a very, very strong data array so that the dissecting of a deal and putting it back together as an anatomy will have far more meaning. And then, of course, financing technology ventures will be tackled last. That topic will address entrepreneurial finance, but it will differentiate the nuances for technology financing from those for other types of businesses, and particularly other assets besides technology in the businesses. The first webinar, Joe Marie, I'm going to provide a quick summary of the first webinar. Webinar number 1, which is Understanding the Technology Development Cycle, was presented by Don Platt, who is the president of Micro Aerospace Solutions, and Rita Ward, who is the CEO of NOAA Industries. At the first webinar, these 2 gentlemen, and I was glad to be the moderator for them, provided insight and understanding to what the technical development cycle is. Everyone walked away understanding that the development cycle is a continuum, which includes 3 phases: the technology development phase, the product design phase, and the manufacturing design phase to make those products. Subsequent phases in a product life cycle deal more with business matters, but in that first webinar we wanted to tackle how you get the technology into a product so that a customer can someday use it. The detail, the walk-away how-to information was also provided in the first webinar. There were steps taken for understanding the technology, for getting insight to the technology, for providing information as a handoff to the designer, and from the designer then in handoff to the manufacturing folks. We are going to advance that first topic today when we talk about translating technology and company capability into business terms. We will be reinforcing some of that information, but we'll also be extending some of that information with more insight and then adding new information on top of that. And by now I hope everybody has stepped into the meeting. In translating technology and company capability into business terms, we're going to provide an understanding of what your business deal actually is. A perspective will come about by looking at some of the key elements such as where are you in your development stage? What are the applications and the market segments that you can build into? What is your intellectual property position? From this webinar, we are going to show you how to reach a broader audience besides technology and engineering peers. How do you get to some of the business people, like the financial people or the marketing people or the attorneys? We'll show you how to do that by expressing your company capabilities and your technology features differently than you may normally talk about them. We're going to arm you with the tools to talk about technology and company capabilities in terms of business. And the way we will arm you is to give you several different types of templates. One template will help you write a 2-page description for your technology, and the other will help you write a 2-page description for your company, both of which will contain the kind of information that a potentially interested third party will review. That interested third party is only going to devote a few minutes in prospecting. So you don't have a chance for them to read a full business plan. You don't have a chance for them to read an entire development plan for a new product. You can only get their attention on the kinds of information that they will make a decision from, and we want you to know what that information is. This 6-webinar series is hosted by Florida's Technological Research and Development Authority. TRDA was founded in 1987 by the state legislature here in Florida. And its charter is to develop and implement educational and technology transfer programs supporting technology-based economic development. To find out more about TRDA, go to our website here, and you'll see our new website with the information that we are glad to share with you. Presenters today are Jo Marie Diamond, who is President and CEO of San Diego's East County Economic Development Council. She also runs the connectory.com. Jo Marie, would you be kind enough to introduce these two entities, and the contact information here on the slide?
Yes, welcome everybody. My name is Jo Marie Diamond. That's 2 first names, sadly, but that's the way my parents made it sound. The East County Economic Development Council in San Diego is a full-service economic development council covering the eastern section of the county. We are rich in supply chain companies, although there are plenty of innovators there as well, and we're intimately involved in connecting the innovation economy with the local supply chain, and what you may have been hearing lately is called a near sourcing initiative. We believe both the innovators can speed their products to market, and the supply chain and the local economy can benefit by them using local sources if it makes sense in their business case. And the reason we are involved in that so much, other than the kinds of companies we have, is that the connectory developed out of the recession with a little r, and it became a buyer-supplier network full of these company capability profiles that are information-rich snapshots of the company's capabilities and capacities, and that became the tool for the near sourcing initiative. So we do both things. It's our flagship project. We do other things as well, and we're in El Cajon, C-A-J-O-N, and there's the telephone number and the 2 ways to reach our website, and Bernie can provide an email address. There it is, but this doesn't look like it's live. None of these links are live. I think Bernie said that at the beginning in the webinar itself.
Yeah, Jo Marie, I did not. I forgot to mention in the beginning that none of these are hot linked, so they'll have to write them down and then key them in on their computers. I think I also forgot to tell them to be sure to turn their their speakers on in order to hear the webinar. And let's see, I wanted to make them aware that in the lower right hand corner that they'll see a text box where they can communicate with you and me. When they send us a message, they can send a message to presenters like their questions for questions and answers, which they can send us at any time. Probably be a little easier for us to manage towards the end of the session though. But they could also send you a specific email as presenter, or they could send me a specific email under my name, Bernie Zuzo. I want to let everyone know that we will send copies of the slides to those who let us know they would like them. So you have two choices in communicating that with us. One will be to send us a text message in the lower right-hand corner telling us who you are and sending, I have your email address, it would help me out if you put your email address in there as well. Or you can send me a personal email and I will be glad to include your request and send you a copy of these slides. I'm Bernie Zuzo. I work for TRDA as the manager for small business commercialization. Many of the illustrations that you will hear about today in the technology translation section come from the R&D companies I've had the pleasure of working with and helping to commercialize their technologies. My contact information is also shown here. I want, as an administrative matter, I want you to know that in order to, this is a very busy presentation, much information. We've tried to help in the communication by putting a blue background behind the technology translation slides, a peach background behind the company capability translation slides, and a white background behind general slides. So here we are, white slide, general. The objective of this particular webinar is to help provide an understanding of those business factors which will be used to assess the technology feasibility of your project. But it's not just an understanding Joe Marie and I want to convey. We want you to be able to walk away from this webinar able to do something. And that something is to draft a 2-page description of your technology translated into business, and also a 2-page description translating your company capability into business terms. We want you to have those because interested third parties are going to inquire. This is the kind of information that they will read and decide whether they want to talk further with you or not at all. As a springboard, I'd like to tell you about a historical event that defines why Joe Marie and I are presenting this webinar today. Years ago, the second technology commercialization venture I was involved with included an engineering service firm which had licensed a technology from an architect in Australia. The company, the licensee, thought that they were acquiring architectural concrete, a machine which would permit them to put architectural features into cold gray concrete. They thought they were going to get a machine. They thought they had rights for the machine and the outcome of that machine. That's what they thought they had. I worked with them. Actually, we started an LLC. I did the feasibility study. In that feasibility study, I took a look at the technology and found out that in stage of development, the company not only didn't have machines to sell, they didn't have a manufacturing process, and they only had one prototype that wasn't ready yet. The patent said that it did not cover equipment, it did not cover a device, it did not cover a process. What the patent covered was not the architectural concrete. It actually covered the glaze, the colored glaze that remains on the concrete after the polystyrene foam liner, which is part of the concrete construction technique. After that is heated and melted onto the surface of the concrete. What a surprise. So how do you avoid this problem as a third party? As a third party, you avoid this problem by making sure that you get a clear understanding of what the technology actually is, the scope of what it covers, and hopefully you can have a meeting of the minds when things are in line, and you can put a proper deal together instead of being spoofed and taken advantage of. By the way, this was a very expensive error. This was a $30,000 a month fee to the engineering service company for rights that they got, but not rights that they had hoped they were getting. Jo Marie, you want to add? I know we'll take up too much time if we spend too much time on problem definition, but is there an experience you've had that you'd want to add as to why translating is so important?
I just want to say, in terms of company capabilities, we've learned a long time ago when we were first working with companies, especially in the internet era when information just gets out there, is that you can't just do a sales job. You have to be able to give real in-depth information about what your company does and what difference it makes to somebody. And if you're not able to do that, and if somebody isn't able to read that capability when they look at your company's snapshot, then they're going to move on to the next one.
The benefits for writing down the translation are experienced by the folks who own the technology and own the company. The template in the center of this page here we'll address later on later slides. But Jo Marie is so strong-willed about these particular benefits. I'd like to ask her to address them in a little detail.
Yes, thanks, Bernie. In particular, that one on the left, I can't stress enough that the discipline of writing it down forces you to understand those other things that are called out in the little voice boxes around the slide. By writing it down, you'll know that you forgot to say something, or you neglected an important point that tied an industrial problem to the technology, to the advantages. It also lets you understand from somebody else's point of view where the risks will be for the investors, the partners, and sadly the lawyers. But all of those things are critically important by writing it down. Again, gap analysis, I can't stress that enough. You'll know as you work your way through the template, the discipline of working through the templates will help you understand what's important.
Jo Marie, I'd like to add that this exercise for writing it down is profound in coming to grips with who the audience is who will actually read this. This is an audience that goes far beyond researchers. The lawyer has a different question, the marketing person has a different question, the financier has a different question, and as you interpret and translate the elements of the technology or the company, you're able to put them in better terms for these other professionals to understand. Okay, blue background, technology translation. The approach that we take is three-pronged. It's vital to strategically understand what you have in the way of a technology. The way you go about marketing and building a company off of a breakthrough technology is very different than the way you go about advancing your company on an incremental technology that is a slight change from technology that's already there. This is a point we hit very hard in the first webinar. The translation of technology as we approach it is not a business plan. This is what precedes a business plan. You must first conduct the technical feasibility. To do that, you need a team of two key people. You need the head of R&D, and you need the person responsible for new product marketing. They need to get their heads together and determine what the technical needs are for design and what the customer needs are for design. They need to combine those two pieces of critical information, those two arrays, into a common combined plan for what the end-use product might ought to look like. Blue background, technology translation. Okay, here's the map. This template identifies about a dozen sections to address on a two-page document. And we don't have time to go over all of these items, but I do. Let me get this marker. Bear with me. We'll talk about the business opportunity last, even though it's at the top of this list. Oh no. Jo Marie, are you there?
I'm here. I've been following the instruction to mute my microphone when you're talking.
Okay. Did the screen go blank on your part?
No, I'm fine. I can see everything.
Okay. I got that blip I told you about yesterday. Mine disappeared. Jo Marie's going to talk about company background. I'm going to talk about the industrial opportunity here. The industrial opportunity, the industrial problem is a discipline problem, an environmental problem that exists whether you work for the government, for one of the federal agencies, or in the private sector, in a manufacturing company or a service company. There is a problem out there that is is unresolved. It's the new technology that will be pulled in order to solve that problem. So the technology we would describe as a solution. The differentiating feature is probably the most important section of a description. There are many products out there. Why is one product better than another? There are many technologies that compete. These are new cutting-edge technologies. Why is yours better than another technology? This is the most important section in a description. The stage of development is very important because it tells the third party where you've been, but where you still need to go. The benefits are benefits not to your engineering or researcher peer, but benefits to your end use customer. And I'll briefly talk upon intellectual property benefits as well. Because the two-page document in translating technology is too difficult to put on a PowerPoint slide, instead we're going to give you over 20 examples of companies who have used this template to translate their technology. These are all companies who have been participants in the SBIR Commercialization Assistance Program that we have here at TRDA. These descriptions are put on TRDA's technology portal. You can get to that portal by going here. Remember, it's not hot links, so you have to write this site down. So now you have over 20 examples that you can read and see how other companies have actually translated their technologies. Each one of these pictures represents a company. There is a succinct description of company capability, and then there is also a description of the technology. By clicking on the technology, you'll be brought to the expanded technology description written into business terms. So you'll be taken to another location within this website for the actual detail. There's also right here, it says click here. That will take you to a video that we recorded at a technology showcase for each of these companies who made a presentation. So the work in understanding their technology was verbally given at the technology showcase. I'm going to pick an example here now and focus in on the technology section of the translation. One of the SBIR companies has developed a nanoparticle detector. It uses a physical measurement system instead of a chemistry system for determining what the molecule is. In order to do this, they developed a proprietary electrospray process. This makes the sample into very, very small particles. Atomization is too large. They go even finer than that. These small particles then are measured as they move through an electromagnetic field. They separate into different groupings. From that, we're able to determine what the molecule is. This particular design will greatly reduce size and weight, so field units can finally be developed. Now, the intellectual property that's associated with this technology has three phases, three sections to it. The core technology is actually licensed exclusively from a U.S. university. As the R&D company works with that core technology, improvements are made to it. So now new patents are filed for those improvements. And then it was realized that it's not just chemicals, contaminants that can be identified. Actually, biomaterial can be identified in the way of viruses. So the technology involving virus detection has been licensed in from the U.S. government. Another section in the description is industrial problem that I had mentioned earlier. In this case here, molecules which are threats need to be identified. But the industrial problem is we don't have technology to do the analysis quickly, so we're constrained by time. The proposed technology is a technology that competes against conventional chemistry processes. Chemistry processes are compound specific. You need to know what you're looking for. This new technology is very different. You do not need to know what you're looking for. So you don't need to prepare an assay guessing what the compound might be. The analysis with the new technology is so much quicker. It can be done within a half a minute on the bench level, whereas the chemistry process takes hours to days to do. Applications need to get tackled. Applications are the opposite side of the coin for market segments. For the nano detector, you can see several application industries: public health, industrial processes, biomedicine. The function in application for public health would be to screen for pathogens. That can be done in nursing homes, schools, hospitals, cruise ships. So the customers or the potential end user partners would come from these particular segments that we've identified here. In industrial manufacturing processes, so often there are nanocontaminants which are toxic. They need to be removed as they leak. Also, clean rooms need to have nanoparticles removed because of the fine R&D work or manufacturing that goes on. After applications, we want to take a look at benefits. The benefits are not derived by design engineers or research colleagues or a counterpart at a university or a federal agency. Those who benefit are the actual end users who use the end-use products that the technology will now permit. For the nanoparticle detector, a benefit would be much quicker measurements in the field. Those doing the measurements will have, because of faster reaction time, will have far less exposure to the contaminants. That's particularly important to the end users, namely the military folks who are out in the field, but it's also very important to caregivers themselves. Also important to those who are inspecting cargo ships. So the benefits are derived by the end users of the eventual end use product. Stage of development is crucial. It's crucial because it says how much work you've done, but how much work remains. For the nanoparticle detector, this R&D company has completed several very important steps. They've done their technical assessment, proof of concept. Let me get a marker, I'm sorry. They've completed their feasibility. They've developed their first prototype. They've also completed the drawings, which then can go to designers. Those drawings were actually used to determine what the prototype parts would be for assembly, and that determination was translated into some numerically controlled drawings for machine tools. The critical components, which is very much part of the manufacturing process, have also been identified. Now this company is poised to meet with design engineers and prepare some application-specific units. They're also ready to do some low-volume manufacturing because of an association they have with a sister company. Jo Marie, I hope I'm coming to the end. Otherwise, if there's something here, chime in on the business opportunity after I give this very quick summary, if you would, Jo Marie.
On the business application one here, or business opportunity one?
Yeah, the business opportunity. I'd really appreciate if you expand on the first of 3 points I'm going to make here. The first is, too often we see in business plans markets that are sized that think that because it's a large size it gets the attention of investors, when in fact the investors look for the correlation between the market segment, the size of that segment, and your technology and end-use product and how well it fits into that last segment. In this particular case, the entire market for particle detection is $1.2 billion. However, for portable segment, it's $500 million. It's very important to get across the fact that it's the portable segment that this technology will fit into, as opposed to the entire market.
I just want to stress there that you don't want to oversell. The seasoned investor is going to know if you are. And that's what I also tell people in the company capabilities is nobody cares if you say you're customer friendly and committed to technical excellence. Nobody cares. They want to know that you've done your homework enough to align your specific technology to a specific allocation within a specific market segment that you can size with credibility.
Jo Marie, what we want to do is challenge this particular company who we've worked with as to whether it actually has identified the right market segment. We're going to take a look at segmentation analysis later. Right here he says that his market is portable instruments.
Right.
We want to challenge whether that's the right market or not. Now, in the business opportunity, what's in it for the third party? This R&D company has done a very nice job identifying 3 markets and 3 different kinds of deals which are strategically important to this small R&D company. The first market are medical science applications, and what the company is looking for are partners in order to co-develop end-use products. For the second application, military security is important. What this R&D company is looking for happens to be add-on funds to advance the current technology more towards the specific needs of the military for security, namely explosives detection or maybe container inspections. And then the third market is public safety, which is really a number of sub-markets below this. They're looking for $6.5 million, but private investment, not a public offering, but private investment from sophisticated investors or venture capitalists. They've done a nice job saying that they know they have different paths to go. They know they can't go everywhere, but they've laid out several paths for people who may have different interests with them.
Could I just mention for a second in the number 2 there that it also really important distinction that this company has made is that they understand that if they will add federal funds for military and security applications, that they intend to, let me see if I can actually use my pen, they intend to lateral that technology through a partnership with defense system integrators. That means they know enough about that market space to know that the way to get their technology into products into that market is through these system integrators. So they may have to give up something, but they'll make the penetration of that market more successful by knowing this, and they've called that out.
And Joe Marie, when you get to the supply chain, you'll be able to show the audience how to identify where in the supply chain the defense system integrators actually live.
Right.
Okay, those written statements in the description don't just come about. There's preparatory work necessary in order to collect the information, the ideas, the intellectual capital in order to prepare the text. I want to talk to you briefly about these. I'm going to get through this quickly, but this is very complicated, these worksheets. There are a number of translation tools that have been used in preparation for the writing of the translation. There are worksheets that I'll show you as an example for determining what the technology features are. Then there are a technology diagram will now become possible after the technology features are understood. Once the technology is understood, we can start to understand what applications into the real world the technology and their end-use products will fit. From that will lead us to the market segments where where the customers are who will buy these products. So we're going to go next to a worksheet which is actually two slides long. It's the technology features worksheet, and on this worksheet there are several sections. I better get this pointer. Section A, Section B, and on the next slide there will be Section C and D. Let me talk to you about these sections. Section A is an important filter. The SBIR titles for the technologies are a Small Business Innovative Research Program is a federally funded program for small companies to develop technology. These titles are often ambiguous, full of esoteric terms. In this case we have a technology that is an ambipolar. He's looking at the ambipolar potential and the propulsion performance of the GDM plasma thruster. What does that mean? So we're going to go down to the next line where we've interpreted it. It means this is a propulsion system, and in this let me get this. And in this propulsion system, he's using plasma as the propellant. Plasma are charged particles, ions, and electrons. Interested in the size of the unit. The unit's only 1 foot by 1 foot by 2 feet. What kind of technology does he have? He's got an enabling technology, and he's also got a breakthrough technology. That gives us a little bit of a vision on the landscape. In order to better understand it, we're going to take a look at the physical elements involved in the technology. We're going to take a look at what the function of each is, and we're going to take a look at what elements interface with this physical element, and then are there any controls necessary for this mini system. I'm going to only point out two of these for you. I'm going to point out the chamber itself. And notice these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. These numbers are correlated with the diagram that we'll see later. The chamber is the part of the device which produces and contains the accelerating plasma. It's connected to an injection magnet. And the injection magnet helps to accelerate the particles. There's a cooling system to take heat away. The process gives off heat, and there's some exit magnets. These exit magnets help to control the flow of the exhaust particles through the nozzle. The only other one I want to point out is the source for the radio frequency waves. The radio frequency waves function are to produce the heat in order to heat up the gas, which is the main fuel, break it into its molecular parts, separating ions and electrons. The interface happens to be the connector to the injection magnets. Now I know I'm running through this quickly, but I want you to see the effort that it takes in order to start to understand the technology before you can really write about it. There's not just physical elements involved in the device, there are non-physical elements. I want to draw your attention to the amber polar force right here. The amber polar force is a crucial element in the core of this technology. An amber polar force is created to take two forces, two directional forces simultaneously. One is positively charged, one is negatively charged. This is a crucial understanding for why this technology works, and it separates this plasma thruster from other electric propulsion systems from other mechanical propulsion systems. So you can see that the non-physical elements include the amber polar force, it includes the entrance and exit magnets, etc. When we go down to section D, there are concurrent technologies that must be developed. If they're not developed, then the amber polar force and its related aspects to the technology mean nothing. If you can't concurrently develop critical elements for your technology to work, then you've got nothing. So at the same time the amber polar force is being worked on, the plasma generator, the RF, the radio frequency source for generating the energy for heating the plasma, that hasn't been developed yet. It has to be developed. The materials for the exhaust, for the chamber and then the exhaust nozzles, tremendous amount of erosion. Those materials need to be determined. That hasn't been done yet, etc. Well, now that we've gone through this exercise of identifying the physical, non-physical elements, forcing ourselves to understand them by reviewing their function, and then understanding the engineering interfaces to make the device actually work, and the controller as well, we are now prepared for a diagram. And this is the diagram. There are numbers on this diagram. Whoops, I better get this. There are numbers on this diagram which correlate to the worksheet that you saw. The propellant gas, number 1, was identified on the worksheet. The chamber, which is right here, for creating the plasma. The electromagnetic force is created here with the magnets. This is the intake. This is the exhaust. The nozzle is right in here, and then the power is created by the radio frequency generator. Here's the control system, and here is the amber polar force, where you've got charged particles exiting this thrusting unit. The worksheet and this diagram go hand in hand. They help the scientist, they help the engineer better understand what the technology is, how it works, and how it eventually will morph into the criteria for an end-use product. Okay, I'm just, Joe Marie, I'm going to just let the audience know that this worksheet, it deals with applications, and it also deals with market segmentation. The sectors are shown here, the markets are shown here. You can see we're getting more refined. The sub-markets are shown here, and then the segments are over here. This is a 2-slide diagram. we took a look at this information already. Now where we want to get to is the segments. This is a technology that's different. It is an air filter technology. Its technology permits the removal of odor, organic materials, and also pathogens. The applications here we can see happen to be on cruise ships, happens to be in public restrooms, airplanes, hospitals, and it's these locations where we're going to find third parties of interest to collaborate, or end-use customers who will want to buy and will need to set up channels of distribution to them. I'm sorry for running through that quickly, but Jo Marie, I'm actually going to just highlight that the product life cycle is shown on this diagram. We've dealt with technology, its stage of development. Technology is developed here, product design is here, manufacturing is here, distribution, which we haven't talked about, and it is in your supply chain, takes care of these particular points. Your supply chain is going to deal with these types of companies here, and I think I'm going to turn it over to you, and there you go. Jo Marie, this is a handoff to you now, company capability translation.
Hi, and I know we don't have very much time left, so I want to be very mindful of that. As Bernie was telling you, he was talking about the actual translation of the technology into business terms. Your technology is only one part of your company. It's also only one part of the companies in the supply chain that may become your collaborative partners. I want to stress again what I mentioned at the beginning about the near sourcing initiative is that investors today are not going to fund you to develop a vertical infrastructure where you can do all things within your own company. They're going to want to see you use strategic and tactical collaboration partners, and so you need to define your capabilities along the product life cycle diagram that we saw, as well as where those collaborators to your product life cycle will be. So the company profile and why they exist in the connectory is because the internet's really good at finding photos of Justin Bieber, but it's not so good at finding specific capabilities for specific kinds of companies that become your partners in the fielding of a technology and getting it into the marketplace and making that making you and your investors a lot of money. So these are the things we're going to try to do. What you want in the profile is to say what your core competencies are. It will help position you to targeted customers. Again, you have an opportunity in the very early stages of this company profile to say what your strategic direction is. And the other thing that's really important is that by being clear in your description and definition of your capabilities opens you up to opportunities that you may not have seen otherwise. You saw Bernie mention that even though the nanopolar company, a particle company, had was really specifically looking at the particulate market or chemical market, they realized that there was a biological or viral market, and I'm sure that's because they spent some time defining their capabilities to interest that market space. So I'm going to click on here. You'll be seeing all these things that I just tried to change the slide. There we go. This is our template. It's not necessarily organized in the complete way that a connectory profile is. I invite you to visit connectory.com, do some searching on the public site, and take a look at people's profiles. But each one of these things can or cannot define your capability. If you don't have a specialized lab, then you won't be talking about that. If we go back to the product life cycle slide, if I'm doing this fast enough. Oops, sorry, went too far. What you have, whether you have special kinds of labs here, you're going to want to be able to call those out in the facilities or other parts of the description of your capability and where you are on the cycle. If you have a distribution component, or if that's your core competency, then you want to be able to communicate that to other to technology companies. I'm really mindful of time here. There's really not much time left. Again, the type of business you are, anywhere along that life cycle curve you saw in the past, in the past few slides, your company can define its niche and its capabilities along that life cycle curve by the type of business you are. Are you primarily a manufacturer? Are you primarily the technology development and firm? Are you primarily a company that adds a particular technical service like testing or the layout design of a laboratory or manufacturing facility? Where do you fit along here? Are you a prototyping firm? Actually, that's only going to work if I'm in full screen. Do you do scale-up engineering here? Is your specialty making sure that the transportation takes place correctly? All right, now I'm back to. I jumped too far ahead, I think. Okay, now these are the specialty, the facilities. You want to describe not only how much you have, but this is really, really important here. Did I do that right? This is really important. Don't oversell your capacity. If you use language that's superlative and hyperbolic, exaggerated about your labs, but then you say that you only have 2 or 5 people, or your area of your facility is too small to be able to actually have anybody believe credibly that you have all those capabilities, you want to be really careful about what your capacity is. Not only what you can do, but how much of it you can do over a particular period of time. In manufacturing, that might be throughput. In technology, it might be how many projects you can take on at once, considering what your staff expertise might look like.
Jo Marie,
yes?
Don't worry about the overrun. Give ourselves at least 10 minutes overrun. Those who want to stay can. If folks can't, then we all understand that. But do get the information across, Jo Marie. I particularly would like, for example, for you to make folks know that we here in Florida talk about wanting to have a directory to find out where the specialized labs are and who can do certain kinds of analyses. We don't have that here. But the supply chain can provide that kind of information, can it?
Correct. And again, there are people who are in the supply chain who may be able to provide you that specialized testing. Number one, it helps your balance sheet when you're talking to investors or other partners to let them know that you have somebody in place who can do your specialized testing, who are available to you through an agreement or on call, where you wouldn't have to have this expensive capital equipment in your facility. That lets your investors know that you're going to give them better return on investment. I also want to mention these sorts of things. If you say, for example, that you are in a medical market, then you better have these. And somewhere in your capabilities profile, you better say that. If you're working in the military or aerospace market, they're going to want these, and they're going to want to see these. I mean, if you don't have those military specifications, then you may not be considered an important part of you may not be able to seem that you have, again, credibility in that market space. Conversely, when you're looking for supply people along the supply chain, other companies who are partners to be your collaborators, and you know you're going into a medical market, then you want to make sure that your suppliers also have good laboratory practices and good manufacturing practices. Please spell these things out when you're using them. We'll mention again later when we talk about some tips that just because you know what these mean doesn't mean the rest of the world does, and it doesn't mean they're always going to search by the same words. The era of pure drop-down searching is not it is long gone, so you've got to look at a lot of different ways of spelling out what you mean. And these are some of the other characteristic capabilities that a company might define. Again, the type of applications, there's a whole section of the connectory where if you have the license to use somebody else's application in the furthering of your manufacturing capability or your technology, you want to be able to spell that out. That shows that you've gone through the trouble of ensuring that those technologies are there and that you've done your homework about which ones are important. Again, you might also look for people along the supply chain, other partners, collaborators, other companies. You want to make sure that their capabilities profile addresses those licensed technologies that you think you might need. So if they have them, they may have done some of the work for you. Again, I can't stress enough, if I go back to get my pen again, the market segment experience. You want to be able to say very specifically, I'm in this, I have customers in the past in this industry with this focus, and these are the market segments. That opens you up to new kinds of new kinds of partnerships and new opportunities. It also lets your reader of the profile know in a snapshot that you have real experience, that you don't just wave your hands and click off a bunch of boxes that say, oh, I have experience in all these markets, without giving some concrete examples of it. Again, unique solutions. This is something of a catch-all, but if there's something you do that's different than everybody else, for some companies, their core competency lies in their staff and management expertise and experience, and not in their facilities. If there's a section of the capabilities profile that's not as applicable to you, don't fill that section out as much. But if it's your staff expertise, the mix of staff you have, the bona fides of your staff, then you want to call that out. I also don't want to neglect this. Some people think this is a throwaway section of a capabilities profile, but the affiliations you have, other partners, if you're a certified partner of a particular kind of recognized leader in the field that you've been, or if you've received certain kinds of awards, you want to be able to call those out. That helps underscore that you're not a new kid on the block, and that you have something to offer, and that other people recognize it as well.
Jo Marie, permit me for this interruption. I
Sure.
want to remind the audience that we would be glad to provide copies of these slides to them if they let us know. Let us know either with a text message on the lower right-hand corner of the screen, or send me a personal email, and I'll be glad to get them a copy.
Okay, and then people think that this is sort of the throwaway yellow page sort of stuff, but you can't neglect it. You have to be honest about your company size, and that comes back again to, if you are a two-person company, please don't click off a button that you've touched every market in the known universe. Your investors and your potential partners are going to know that at any time. Again, your corporate relationships, what you have in place with other members, both, and especially if it cuts across those market segments that you took so much time to develop in your technology translation, you want to be able to say that you have relationships in certain corporate marketplaces. So all of these things need to be addressed, even though you don't have to address them as in depth as you did some of your core capabilities, because that's what people are really searching on, is your core capabilities. But they'll come back and check your legals. They'll come back and check your legal structure. They'll come back and check whether your years in business match what you say you've done and can do.
Jo Marie, I'd like to add for that slide
Go back.
Yes. Promotion from an entrepreneurial company sounds good, but if there are real sophisticated investors, venture capitalists, professional investors, will go through a due diligence process. Likewise, a partner will go through a due diligence process. So any inflated expression of accomplishment will be recognized and seen. There then would be a question about one's veracity, and that's harmful in trying to put a deal together with someone.
The way you structure your capabilities profile, if there are holes in it between what you really are and what you say you can do, it'll become apparent to anybody in a fairly short order. Okay, going on to this one. This is just the thumbnail, the beginning of a profile. Remember, this goes on for 2 pages. In each of these sections, it can be fleshed out in more depth with more detail in it. But you see that this company, who knows what they're doing, let me assure you, has been very clear to say what kind of company you are. That's what's here in the red. Company type, what are they? They're an R&D, engineering, and manufacturing services company, and they do it by contract. They are not the owners of the technology, although I will tell you that sometimes they have been instrumental in bringing new intellectual property to their customers, to the point where their customer has been willing to share some IP with them, which is kind of interesting. But that's not what they're after. They're not after the IP. Again, they're very clear here about their technical focus. This is what they focus on, electromechanical products. So if you're looking for somebody to help you with biochemical or pharmaceutical assays, or don't come to this company because that's not what they do. So they make sure that you hone in on what their technical focus is. Again, what is their specialty? They're able to deliver these turnkey products, their entire development and manufacturing cycle, anywhere along that product life cycle. So you can enter them, their relationship with them, in many different phases of that life cycle curve that Bernie showed you that was so elegantly laid out for you. So they can do all of this. If you need help with the prototypes, if you're in the concept design phase, all the way to the fully manufactured product. And they become your collaborative partner. And they're willing to get involved with you, as the relationship forms early in the process, even if you don't have a lot of money to spend, because if they recognize where you're going, again, if you've translated your technology into business terms appropriately, they're going to be willing to work with you even before you become a high-level customer for them and a high-volume customer for them. And then again, the other thing they say that's really important here is they talk about their particular, they say variety of industries, but they call out the ones that are most important: consumer, industrial, and medical. Is there anything else you wanted to add there, Bernie?
No. Would you want to go back over the life cycles curve to show what parts of that curve for a product this company covers?
I can. We'd have to flip back to it.
Yeah.
I don't know how fast this goes.
Okay, let me withdraw my. There you go.
There we go. All right. So this company will. They're not this area, okay? Specifically, they're not this area.
You need a pointer.
I just did it. Did you see me circle it?
Oh, no, I did.
Did my circle not? Okay.
Thank you. I see.
This is not them, but I'm going to do you a different color here. But they're in here. They're here. They're here. They've got some labs. They'll do low volume, but they'll also help you get to mass production. They'll do the manufacturing design. They'll do some of the process analysis for you. They'll do manufacturing design, and they're not really involved in the distribution curve. But so they're sweet spots right in here, and it's very clear to you that that's what they're doing, and that's where they fit along the curve.
Jo Marie, I'd like to add that this is a two-dimensional curve.
Yes.
And it deals with a single product, and that single product goes through the processes that we see in this two-dimensional curve. For each industry where there is a new product to be designed, you look into the paper, and so you have a layer for each industry. You've got the biomedical industry that's layered behind here. For the electromagnetic devices, they've got security industry, electromagnetic devices, etc. Each layer is into the page for each industry.
Okay. Did you mean 3D instead of 2D?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes, 3D instead of 2D, but PowerPoint doesn't make it easy for me to use.
No, it doesn't make you. It doesn't let you see that next axis. Okay, we're almost at the end here, friends and attendees. We really appreciate that. What I want to talk about here is that the product design drives the supply chain. Your customers are along this entire supply chain. They can help you with any aspect of this, but the vector is two ways. I can't emphasize enough that often your partners in the supply chain, when you bring them into your collaborative process, can help you do these things and get to where you're going faster, because they've been through it before with other customers, and they may recognize the open manhole that you're about to walk through with regard to a cross-functional process, or the way you're defining your market segment, or where you, just because you understand your technology, you may not really understand where you have laid some open manholes, like I said before, with regard to designing for manufacturability. And they'll be able to maybe make suggestions to you, because they'll have learned from other customers they have who've either done things successfully or made mistakes that they'd like to show you how to avoid. So it goes both ways, and you may actually give them an idea that would open up a new technology to them, and that sort of symbiosis in the collaboration process will really help it be a two-way vector. So the supply chain isn't just somebody you give a spec to and they do what you tell them to do. They are your collaborative partners because of having been through it before. So that's why the vector goes both ways. Anything else you wanted to add there, Bernie, since I think we're pretty close to the end?
It's all yours right now. You're doing
Okay.
a great job bringing us to...
All right, well, here's the... Oh, boy, here's our challenges and tips slides. Bernie, why don't you do a few first, and then I'll pull out a few so we can make them understand that even though this looked ridiculously complicated for an hour plus a few minutes, there are some tips you're going to take away with you, and I'm sure Bernie will be available for questions afterwards, and you can always send me some as well.
In preparation, in our several working sessions, Joe Marie and I said if we just had this slide, we could give an entire webinar on just this slide. And in webinar number 1, we had a similar slide where we could have given a whole webinar on just that one slide. So it's quite a challenge. I would like to start by addressing the very first item. The challenge is sometimes, in fact too often, few people seem to understand the technology. They don't understand how it's being explained to them. So we've got 3 tips for you. One tip is to actually back away far enough from the technology so that you could start to see some of the business issues. The second tip is to evolve yourself as a writer from writing for technical peers to begin to write for multidisciplined groups. Excuse me. Write for the marketing people, write for the financial people, write for the business people. Put your head into theirs and see what kind of questions they ask. And also, understanding comes when you think of the end user and how that end users will function with the end use device, what benefit that end user will experience. Don't just think of fellow researchers and what it would take in order, what it would take in writing in order to get another grant. Think in terms of the end user and what it will take in order to get your technology to that end user. Excuse me. Joe Marie, it's yours. Joe Marie, are you there?
I'm here. I just had to turn my mic back on because I was trying to decrease the echo. Again, I want to talk about this one right here about the clarity. You need to have the keywords. I'm going to take a different color here. You need to have the keywords that are important to your domain and your industry, but you need to avoid jargon and you need to avoid death by acronym or abbreviations. If you're going to use those acronyms, then you also need to spell them out, and then you need to avoid assuming that everybody is in your club. They're not in your club. They may know a few of the words, but you need to be very, very clear about what your technology can do and what your company capabilities are relevant to words that the rest of the world understands. And so, again, we have an acronym pig in our office that if you're in a meeting and you don't spell out your acronym, you have to feed it some money and then we give it to charity. I also wanted to talk specifically about too much information to explain, this part right here. That's why we broke the connectory profiles, capability profiles into sections. That's why Bernie has a template for the technology translations. Don't chew up all the elephant at once. Do each section one at a time. And again, I will tell you that will identify where your gaps in your translation are evident, where you've missed something, where you are expecting people to have an intellectual leap that is not that they may not be able to do to be able to get to the business terms. So that's why you need to break it into the sections and then read it. Once you've done it in sections, read it for flow. Is it going to tell your entire picture? And I guess on the last thing I'm going to say, and then I'll give it back to Bernie again, is that you don't make everything so domain specific that, let me change colors again, so domain specific that only those people in your club can understand it. Expand your semantic terms, especially where you're going to be talking about your capabilities, your technologies applicable to specific market segments. That will open you up to communities of interest. We have portals on the connectory where we, even though the industries cut across every section, through all industries at every section of the supply chain, in the U.S. connectory, we segment it into portals. So if what your capability is really does touch the aerospace sector and really does touch the biomedical sector, then you want to be able to use terms from both of those market segments so somebody can find you, even if that's not the people you are looking for right off the bat. Now, Bernie, it's back to you.
The last point I'll make deals with the challenge when people have either read the material or people who are talking with you, they actually turn away and they don't offer any explanation at all. That's can be unsettling, but it's also very, very important. There's something they saw or heard that may be disturbing to them. Those are the folks that you need to pay attention to, not those who don't understand. You need to presume that they do understand, but they heard something that turned them off. A suggestion, a tip would be to replace these hyperboles. This technology is going to be a disruptive technology that is going to do X, Y, and Z for A, B, and C industries. Get away from the snake oil sales when you write or when you speak, and instead talk about the demonstrable milestones that you've reached. What have you actually done? Take it out of the realm of promotion and put it into the realm of performance. Second tip would be to stretch from providing dry didactic data. It's numbers and it's some parameter, and you talk as though everyone understands it. Get away from that. And remember the old movie Paper Chase. Facts, facts, facts. Those are case facts. What's the significance behind those case facts? So you give out information or you talk about parameters. What's the significance behind those specific numbers? That's the significance is what is persuasive. And then when you're not quite sure what needs to be said or written, put yourself in the place of the reader or the listener. What do they want? What decision will they make? And what information do they need to help them make that decision? They want to make a decision. They want information that helps them make the decision or helps them facilitate that decision. Those are my last comments on this page, Joe Marie. Let's flick this over to the last slide, and then we'll end it. Where do you promote your technology? Where do you promote your companies? TRDA has developed a technology portal for the SBIR companies who we have supported in with commercialization techniques. Federal labs also have some technology portals where they describe the technologies, and universities and research institutes are now starting to create some of these technology portals. Joe Marie, what are some of the places, where are some of the places that you know technology and technology-based companies or related companies along the supply chain can promote what they do?
Well, I've already talked about ourconnectory.com, but we touch a lot of different areas, whether it's the economic development community, whether it's the technology and innovation support community. In the San Diego region, we have Connect, which is well known globally as a entity that fosters technology from both the early stage entrepreneur through serial entrepreneurs or repeat venture people who go and they connect the companies to their potential investors of all types, both government and private equity investors. And they are now absolutely convinced that you need to include the supply chain in it. So we're taking our message on the road, not only through California, but in other parts of the United States. We also have portals, again, depending on the community of interest. There's a California aerospace portal. There's a green portal that has been recently launched. So you can, and so green, for example, is one of those things that you can't assign an industrial code to. you really have to talk about where your capability makes a difference in these clean and green ventures to other things. But there are plenty of places out there. Corp Tech is there. Bernie knows about that more than I do. But you never know where your next collaborator, investor, partner, opportunity is going to come from. Get yourself out there. If you're worried about sales creatures calling you, what I always say is get yourself a gatekeeper that knows how to say no, and then but give yourself lots and lots of exposure. And most of these portals lead into other sorts of exposure arenas that I encourage you to take advantage of.
Thanks, Jo Marie.
Okay.
Okay, wrap up. The objective, we hope we've met, we've tried, and that objective has been to provide you with some tools, templates, and some tips for writing a two-page description for each of your technology and your company capabilities. The significance for translating technology and company capability leads to a broader audience of people who and third parties who may be interested in you. These third parties will now be able to better understand your technology and capabilities. The materials you'll have to give them will be clear statements of what the business opportunity is for them and why they might ought to get involved with you. And all of this leads to a higher likelihood for a business transaction for you to experience. I'd like for you all to know that the next webinar, which will be held in July, will address managing a technology and product pipeline. That brings this webinar to a close. I would like, on behalf of TRDA and our Executive Director, Chester Straub, to thank all of you for your attendance today and giving us the opportunity and the joy in presenting this particular topic to you. Jo Marie, I thank you. You're a delight to work with and co-present with all the hard work that went into the preparation. It's been a joy in co-presenting with you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity.
We will open this to questions and answers. Those of you who have some questions, please send them by text, and Jo Marie and I will do our best to answer them. Jo Marie, if you'd stay at the last one, I'll run up the list and see what I can read. One person wanted to know if they could get the contact information again. Let me do that. This is no easy task, by the way.
Can you, if you pull down on here, you could go all the way. See this little drop down, Bernie? You can go all the way up to the slides that have the contact information. See?
Boy, oh
see this?
boy,
Can you do this? Can you do the drop down, like I'm doing?
Yes.
And it shows
Yes.
which ones. There it is.
Oh, I didn't do that.
There you go.
There you go. Thank you. Here's the contact information for Jo Marie.
I also have an email that ends in @connectory.com. I mean, you're not really happening in this world unless you have multiple emails, right? So they all come to the same place. Everyone in my office at that telephone number there speaks fluent Connectory, so don't be afraid if I'm not available to ask a question. They'll get it to me if they can't answer it.
A question that just came in, Jo Marie, is for companies who developed complex systems like small aircraft or rockets. Where do they fit into the supply chain?
Well, you saw that reference to the system integrators about the defense and aerospace applications. Although there are opportunities for small companies who have their own complex systems or rockets, you might do well to understand that you're going to be not at the very top of the supply chain, but you'll be at the next level down, and you'll be wanting to interface with and collaborate with those system integrators. Although in the space arena right now, I don't know about Florida, but I think it's also a spaceport state as California is. There's plenty of private sector interest in, getting smaller, cheaper rockets, propulsion systems, microsatellites going. You're going to want to be in the part of the supply chain that takes the newer, smaller, faster technologies and to those end users who have an application for it, and you want to network with those people who are in that part of the supply chain, which is not necessarily the big multi-stage rocket that's going up, but those people are trying to find ways to get multiple payloads up faster or smaller payloads up faster without all of the as much of the red tape. There's always red tape when you're going to be crossing into an orbit or into the high space, high altitude. I don't know if I've answered the question or not, but you're both at the top of one supply chain, but you're also just below the system integrators on the other part of the supply chain. I hope I've answered that question. I may not have, but I tried.
There is a question here that says, how is this information intended, let me see, to be presented in a business plan, as an appendix to a business plan? This information is not intended to be as is integrated into a business plan. This information is a major tool for doing the work in advancing the technology and productizing it, and in better understanding what that process will involve. The outcome from using this information will be to better understand the product development portion of your business plan and the manufacturing portion of your business plan. You will understand you'll understand the steps necessary, the resources necessary. You'll do an inventory of what you can do and what you can't do. You will know the work that will need to be done on a contract basis or a partnering basis outside. You'll have an idea of what that cost is. So you're going to have information that will help you in the design portion of your business plan, the manufacturing portion of your business plan, the financial portion of your business plan. But these are work products that will then get transitioned in part to a much broader business plan. Joe Marie, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Let me add also that to the question about rockets, small satellites, aircraft, it would be important to identify different ways that the supply chain could be approached. There may be manufacturers there are manufacturers of large rockets, etc. But there are also small manufacturers. How you find them through the supply chain, maybe you have guidance on that, Joe Marie. But let me add this. There are also components that need to go into the rocket, systems that need to go into the rocket. Finding those capable of designing and manufacturing the systems, I believe, is also part of that answer. When the answer is not clear, a very helpful step to take is to find some company that is in part of the process, contact them. Amazingly, these folks share so much helpful information. They help get you closer to the answer, even if they aren't the right answer.
Yes, I really want to emphasize that as well, is that if you can enter the supply chain in lots of different areas, and somebody in a part of the supply chain that's in a earlier stage of the product development cycle or a later stage of the cycle will have contacts. It's social networking in the industrial world. Okay, industrial networking is that they'll have contacts that you've never met yet, and they can help you pinpoint exactly where you're going to be going. It's like, well, maybe I'm not the company you need or the component you need, but you need to talk to my colleague in another state or in another part of the town or even in a complementary industry. You need to work your net. And that the people along that supply chain and where you're navigating will be invaluable partners in terms of pointing you in the right direction.
Another question, actually a comment that came in from a wonderful colleague, Carl Dakin, who's actually out in Colorado. Carl suggested that we speak to the process of using these templates in talking with different people. That's such an important point to make. Templates provide the placeholders for information, but not everybody articulates the information in ways that it's easily captured. So if you're talking to a person with one particular personality profile and a person who has a different personality profile, some human experience needs to be used here in collecting one type of information from the first person who's capable of giving it, but recognizing that it's the second person who's inclined to provide the other information, and then integrate that information together. Sometimes you talk with a pure scientist and he can't rise above, not that all of them can't, some of them cannot. So if one scientist can't rise above the bench level, but someone in the organization can, then you talk with that other person as well. You draw from both. And if there's no vision to the marketing aspects of this, then maybe you talk like a technical engineer. You're doing technical sales as an engineer, and there are certain features that need to be explained, and so you ask questions that would pull the answers about those features out from the scientist. Carl, I hope that that gets to this very important point that you made, at least gets us started on it.
And I just want to add one other thing, Bernie, is that with regard to at least the company capabilities profile, as you continue to talk to more people who hear your translation or your story, who come from different perspectives, different walks of life, different personality profiles, or different roles in their respective organizations, certain nuggets are, keep your ears open. Certain nuggets are going to get through that you're going to say, wow, this kind of person, this marketing person, this sales engineer finally got what I was saying. Your profile is a living template. You don't have to keep it the same for a whole year. I forgot to mention that connectory profiles are free, by the way. There's the flaw in my business model. But you can go in and change it. So if you hear something that you know resonates with a group you want to reach more effectively, then go back and tweak your template, your translation, to make sure that you address it in that way. So that's why, talk to 50 people, because they're not going to hear it the same way. I'm always amazed by how people hear your story differently depending on what their life experience is and what their perspective is.
One of the questions was, or is this webinar being taped? Are these webinars being taped or recorded? The answer is yes. Susan, thank you for asking that question. Yes, they are being taped. You contact me later. I will be able to tell you how to view them. Susan, I really appreciate your comment about the content, the concentration, the depth of content, and the value that you have received from this webinar today. It's a payoff that I appreciate, and I know I speak on behalf of Joe Marie as well. That kind of comment is embraced by us, and we thank you for it. And let me invite one more question. If we don't get one more question, then we'll call it a session.
Okay. Oops.
Let's see. Rocket development companies where development demonstration of designs take time. At what time should they approach potential collaborators? Joe Marie, I'll start and let you finish.
Okay.
Um, developing, signing a transaction does not happen overnight. Uh, Ideally, a relationship is built, competence is recognized, common needs are identified, synergies eventually are realized and discussed. Relationships take time to develop, so I would say start immediately on the relationships with those companies who you think you might be able to partner with. Use some of these tools in targeting future partners, and then go approach them and begin the relationship development process, explaining your capabilities and mutual interest and possibly working together.
And the thing I want to mention is that you don't have to be involved in a transaction with a potential collaborator to network with them. Please take advantage of those organizations, support groups, special interest groups in your area where you can rub shoulders with somebody who might be in your own sector but might be cross-pollinated, I'm going to use that word on purpose, that term on purpose, with another sector. For example, in San Diego, the defense and aerospace community networks constantly with the biotech and biomed community, and they're actually, they're sort of emerging there a cluster on wireless health applications for defense and security purposes. And so you can meet those collaborators in an environment that is not necessarily, okay, we're just trying to work the deal and form the collaboration. This near sourcing initiative I've been talking about has all kinds of roundtables with two purposes. One, to teach the innovation entrepreneur how to take better advantage of the supply chain as a collaboration partner, and then how that will help their technology get to market, their product to market faster and attract investors. On the flip side, it's also encouraging supply chain companies to work more closely with innovators early in the process. So if you have those kinds of things in your area, I encourage you to take advantage of it. And specifically, remember I mentioned that affiliations field in the company profile. If you are a member of an organization, be sure to list it. And you can search by member organizations and find out which companies have gone to the trouble of saying, yes, I'm a member of Connect, yes, I'm a member of the Project 17 Agri-Technology Group on the central coast of California, yes, I'm part of the MEP group, which is the Manufacturing Extension Partnership in the New England area. So all of those things are important. So to underscore what you were saying.
We need to bring this to close now. Again, thanks to all of you. Joe Marie, thanks to you. Thanks to TRDA for letting us put this on. Wishing you all the very, very best. Go have at it.